Yes. I understand. Exactly. School, boarding school. Now that's a really important point, Well, first of all, I say usually in my family, my mother and father was just how the situation was. A very volatile group, 9 human beings, crazy father, problems, dramas, and 7 little human beings all trying to sort of survive in this, So if my mother had any common sense, because when you're involved in this, she was overwhelmed by the suffering, and she couldn't see. I mean, I think most people, we can't see that how to take care of the kids. What am I going to rule the children? They're always fighting. Well, the simple one is you separate them. But most of us don't have the common sense to think that. It really seems so simple. And it's the same with ourselves. You're at work every day and you're fighting. You can't stand that colleague. You can't stand that boss. So we just go back like an idiot, never questioning the fundamental thing itself. Should I change something here? But because when we've got lows, we mostly have, when we're always dissatisfied, and then when we always believe something else is the problem, we don't notice what will be the best for ourselves. We have no intelligence. We have no self-respect. So let's just think in a relationship with a person. So you've got I don't know, what do you like, boys, girls, dogs? People are very flexible these days. You like boys, okay. So you have a boy, and you're an ordinary victim person, which is typical samsaric. I'm hopeless, I'm no good, mummy made me, it's not my fault, I didn't ask to get born, and he's the cause of all my happiness, and he must do what I want. And you understand, I get jealous when he doesn't, I get angry with the typical, no awareness. Nice girl, you're a nice girl, it's true, but all this typical victim mentality. Well, the usual mode there is, you get into the relationship, you're all idealistic, it's all going to be perfect, he's going to make me happy. And then suddenly he leaves the toilet seat down and he farts in the sheet, or puts it up, farts in the sheet instead of the toilet, doesn't come home on time, doesn't look at you with such divine love anymore. Of course, you're going to get upset and you get jealous, you get angry, he doesn't love me anymore, boo-hoo, right? Normal, ordinary life, typical. Now you start to hear that Buddha says you can, it's about your own mind. Wow, it's a brand new idea. You'll think, I'm going to start looking at this. So now you start to realize that your mind is playing a role in this. He does his trip, you've got your trip. So you start to become conscious. So you start to notice, well, I'm always shooting my mouth off and saying, you don't love me anymore, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm driving him away, so maybe I've got to shut my mouth first, like I just said before. And you're still in the relationship. But let's say you notice him looking at other girls, and then you hear he's cheating on you. It's getting a bit serious now. Now, the normal victim one would go back like a moth to a flame, would shout and yell, would blame him, boo-hoo, you don't love me, it's not fair. And look, you kill each other, or you kill him, or you kill yourself, isn't it? That's typical. So now this is the point. It's your question. When you're beginning to get some self-awareness, you've got to now stop and take stock of the whole situation. And the first thing, and this is the point, you have got to decide is this relationship worth it? This could be your job. Is this job worth it? Is there something in this job that is useful to me that can help me grow, become a better this, better that? Is there something here that's worth it? So if you decide there is something between me and this boy, there is something worth it there, and I'm prepared to give it a go, that becomes your decision. You choose to stay, and now your main practice is changing your mind. And now you begin to become a grown-up. Now, if it is like the alcohol, it's too much, his violence is too much and you can't cope with it, or his bad behaviour is too much and you can't cope, you don't blame him, but you say, no, I can't handle this, I'm leaving. But most of us wait till we're killed or kill someone else. We don't make... So it's making the decision to stay and work on your mind, or making the decision to go. That has to be, that's the key point, that's the point. Now, that's why I have such respect for my friends in prison. They don't have the luxury to leave. Do you understand? They don't have the luxury. So they either go mad or they change their mind. So they change their mind. They start seeing the good things. They start accepting this is my... And this is the point. Even if you're in prison wrongly, you can choose, I am in prison. This is my reality. That's powerful. And that's the opposite of victim. This is huge, that takes real courage. Now you're in charge of your life, and you decide. Do you understand? Good. And this is the toughest one. Because attachment and aversion are addicted to the external object. Blame and guilt and all that nonsense, This is being grown up.
So in the best situation, you would always accept where you stand.
Any given moment where you are is where you are. So you've got no choice.
Yeah, but I mean, even if I could change it, for example, I live in Berlin and I'm not happy in Berlin.
Nothing wrong. No, that's what I'm saying before. There's nothing wrong with change. No, I did not say accept it every time. You didn't hear me. Yeah. If it is not right in that relationship or being in Berlin, just You can decide to stay, like if you were in prison. But if you are able to change it and you feel there's some other opportunity, don't even hesitate. But leave for the right reason. Not just boredom, I want something delicious and new, that's attachment. But really, I mean, if there's another, Buddha says, hey, change something, please change it. No moral that says you can't change something. But if you can't, but when you, like, say, you want to leave Berlin because you're bored, you're fed up, you're sick of this job, that's just attachment, darling. That's the wrong reason to leave Berlin. Then maybe you can leave Berlin for the right reason, or you can stay in Berlin a bit to work on your mind. Either way, to make yourself happy. But there's no law that says you've got to stay there. I mean, the karma runs out in places, and karma. That's why in the Buddhist one, the Christian one is very deep about relationships. You've got, it's a sin to ever get divorced, and so people sit around in miserable relationships for the rest of their lives. There's no concept like that. Karma runs out, So maybe your karma's finished with Berlin, and don't hesitate. And you get a new place, you'll soon learn whether it's just attachment, No, nothing says you have to stick there. Nothing at all. Don't worry about it. There's no moral in that.
Yeah.
You understand?
Just the name of just example of like general, because we're not in prison. I think we always can, or we always feel that we can decide everything. This is what I mean.
We think we feel we can, but the irony is we might as well be in prison because actually we don't. We feel we're paralyzed. I know someone says, and they go and they come and a person comes to see me and the job's hopeless, the boss is a disaster, the colleagues hate me, it's just terrible, I don't get enough money. And the first thing I said, well, you could leave and get another job. Oh, no! Give all the reasons why it's not possible. So you can't have it both ways. We can't have it both ways. Or with a relationship, he's mean, he doesn't love me anymore, he shits in the sheets, he does this, he looks at the other girls. Well, you could leave him. Oh, no, he really does love me. Oh, no, they might. Oh, no, the children will be upset. Oh, no, mummy will criticise me. Oh, no. We make up ego's reasons. And so then in either case we become victims, we're paralysed and we blame the external. That's the suffering. And the external might be horrible, but we still blame it, meaning we're not got any self-respect and any kind of courage to make a decision. Whatever it is, if you make a decision, this is where I am. Like I always use the example of this woman in prison. She's an outrageous example. Years ago, this hippie woman in the 70s, hitching with a hippie husband, hippie kids, picked up in Florida by two fellows. They're stopped by the cops. The fellows kill the cops and blame the hippies. Now, they're completely innocent hippies. You can't get more innocent. They lose the kids. They're on death row in Florida for killing cops, like the worst animals on the planet, He even gets executed. I mean, can you conceive of that? He gets executed. So I've read many stories of people out of their brains with rage and despair, wrongly accused, But she did yoga and things. I read a bit of a memoir. I've heard about her since. She's out now. She had this very sort of sweet personality, didn't have much anger, but had this incredible ability. So she said, at some point, I realised I couldn't change anything, but they couldn't take my mind from me. So I decided, I'm not a prisoner. I'm a monk. I'm not in a cell. I'm in a cave. So she literally relabeled her situation. That's possible. That's profound, beyond profound. But what's interesting, she didn't stop trying to get her freedom. She didn't just sit back going, oh, well, I'm in prison. She never gave up working on getting free, and she got free eventually. So accepting your situation sounds to us like passivity, and the only option for us is to shout and yell. No, accepting means this is reality. Now what can I do about it? Because if you're out of your brain, you can do nothing about it. It's very courageous, very powerful, and very logical. Do you understand? And that's why Dalai Lama is the perfect example of all this. I mean, he hasn't changed, he hasn't stopped for 60 years trying to change it. Never gives up. Diplomatically, socially, politically, religiously, every way possible, he never gives up. But he's a happy guy. Funny, cracking jokes about the Chinese and the communists and everything, So somehow, he's like the proof of the pudding here, you understand? This is the hugest job we'll ever do. This is the hardest job we'll ever do. But this is the essence of being a Buddhist. And of course, I always say that Buddha doesn't own this stuff. He didn't make this up. He's not a creator. He's just intelligent, and he's observed it and used it, and he's really skillful at this. This is his expertise. Do you understand? What else, people? Time for lunch soon. No other questions? Okay. Well, okay. Let's summarise somehow. We'll move into karma a bit. We've touched on the bigger picture, broad view. So here we're mainly looking at junior school and high school, which is the wisdom wing, using another analogy. Bird needs two wings, wisdom and compassion. Compassion is the compassion wing. Bodhisattva. It includes Vajrayana. Here we've got controlling your body and speech, or another way of putting it, using Buddhist terminology, abiding by the laws of karma. And then second, based upon the delusions in the mind and the virtues. So the second level of practice is being your own therapist, based on some meditation, getting some concentration, understanding the Buddhist model, and unpacking and unraveling the stuff beneath the emotions, the conceptual stories that determine our feelings, determine our actions. That's what I meant by inform our feelings, inform our actions. So let's look briefly then at this business of karma, this word, so well known, but so cliche. Again, this is a philosophical view of the universe. It's vast, and the literature is vast. And it came up well to the observation of these Hindus well before the Buddha. But when Buddha came along 2,500 years ago, he came through this amazing system, highly educated, went as far as he went as a philosopher and a great practitioner in meditation. He got as far as he could go, and then he diverged in his own direction, in particular in relation to the nature of self and the nature of the universe and his own ways of describing things, how the world exists, and karma and suffering and happiness and so on, okay? So anyway, karma in general is Sanskrit, and it means action. So what Buddha is saying is basically every millisecond of what our body and what we do with our body and speech and mind is an action, and there are like 1,000 a second, an action. And every one of them leaves an impression or a seed in our consciousness, or programs our consciousness, cultivates that seed which brings a habit in our consciousness. And everything we think and do and say, nothing of it goes astray. It's all stored there. It's all stored there. So, okay, the main action, the starting point of the process of quote-unquote creating karma, quote-unquote sowing seeds in the mind, the starting point of this process of programming our mind is the mind itself, the thought, and in fact the word intention. Not, oh, she had a good intention, but literally bare bones, I will, volition. That's the start of the entire process. So I will walk out that door. You can deduce, if you see me stand up and head towards that door on my legs, you can deduce logically that there must have been in my mind an intention. I will walk out the door. My legs do the job. My eyes lead the way, but they're just the servants of the thought. I will walk out the door. This is the way the entire universe exists, and this is the starting point of anything we ever do or think, whether it's labelled negative or positive. And this is the process called creating karma, all of which sows seeds, which produces, these seeds will not fall away, they will eventually ripen in the future as our experiences. This is the nature of the universe, Buddha says. As the Dalai Lama says, it's like self-creation. We don't need an external creator. We don't need an external boss who punishes and rewards. That's dualistic for the Buddha. It's completely unnecessary. This is a natural law, and every sentient being, every dog, every monkey, every ant, every spirit, every hell being, every god, every human lives within this natural law. It runs the universe, but no one runs it. It doesn't need. So what we have to do is then unpack this law, understand some of the basic principles of it, so we can use it to cultivate this person. Just like you have to learn botany so you can cultivate the garden you want. So our life is our garden, and what's in it is planted by us in the past. And our own intentional actions, followed through by verbal and physical actions, are the players in this process of sowing seeds, of creating karma, of creating our lives. We are literally the creators of our own reality, life after life after life. This is Buddha's view, and all the vast literature deals with this, explains it in depth. We're our own boss. We're the creator. We're in charge. Okay, let's look at the basic principles of this. Then at the very beginning, using body and speech, don't worry about the mind yet. Buddha's very first entry-level junior school series he gives us a series of little suggestions. Remember, he's not a creator, but he's like a doctor, a kind mentor, who from his experience has found certain behaviours will cause you suffering. So then on the basis of this, your doctor says, well, don't smoke, don't eat too much sugar, don't do this, don't do that. Buddha's the same. He would suggest that we list a little checklist of 10 don'ts as a recommended starting point for practice, as a basis, indeed, for one's practice all the way to enlightenment. So the 3 actions of the body he would recommend we refrain from. Don't kill any sentient being. Don't steal. Don't take the ungiven, as Lama Zopa translates Tibetan. And the third one is called don't, cheat on partners. Don't jump on the wrong partner. Don't rape. Don't take someone else's partner. Don't cheat on yours. Basically, don't use your body based on sexual attachment to harm others. 3 simple actions. These are the heaviest of the harmful actions that are related to harming others. The second 4 are the speech, which of course mostly humans. Don't lie. Don't say bad things about people behind their backs. Don't just rabbit on about nothing, saying meaningless rubbish, boring people. Isn't it? Which is mostly what we do. And then don't use harsh words. Don't abuse people. 4 simple pieces of advice. The last 3 are like the beginnings of working on the mind, beginning to refrain from the 3 main delusions. We'll go into that later. But body and speech is very simple. So this is Buddha's most urgent level. As Lama Zopa says, this, if you want to start practice, and this is sort of odd to us because we think practice means sitting on the ground with your eyes closed, looking holy, meditating. Yeah, sure, do that. But this is the first one, the main one, the most dynamic. Back off, he says, and refrain from these 7. Already, I can't describe to you, like I said before about speech, but this is indescribable. It seems so boring. It seems like, oh, I want to be a Buddhist. This sounds like what my grandmother would tell me. But it's profound. But the reason is you've got to ask why. Now, this is a big point. Our view of morality in our world, whether you're a Christian or a materialist, is when someone says, don't do that, it's the policeman. It's mummy. It's God. And what their meaning is, if you do it, I'll punish you. That's our view of morality. It's very simplistic. It's very dualistic, but that's our view of morality. When you naturally be thinking, don't you tell me what to do, I can do what I like, we'll say. Isn't it? That's our view of morality, because I'm going to get punished. It's very dualistic, and that's got nothing to do with Buddha's view. Buddha's like your doctor. She says, oh, Robina, darling, you've really got to give up that sugar. You're going to get diabetes, darling. You don't say, how dare you tell me what to do? And you do not say, you mean you're going to punish me if I eat sugar and give me diabetes? You don't say that either. So we know we don't have that view when it comes to health. We appreciate the doctor. We thank her for her kindness, that she's using her own experience and pointing out to you out of her kindness, honey, if you do that, you're going to really suffer. So we're grateful for her kindness. And then equally, you don't go home and you notice your doctor's not there, so out come the cakes. Oh, I won't get diabetes. She doesn't see me eat. Do you know my point? That's our view of morality. So instinctive. It's blame and punishment, which implies a person above us running the show. And that's why we have guilt. That's dualistic. It's meaningless for the Buddha. So for the Buddha, don't kill, don't lie, don't steal. Okay, I always quote this every time. Our view of morality, and I asked my Catholic priest friend, what is it that defines a sin for a Catholic? Doing what God said not to do. It completely fits if you have the view there is a creator who runs the universe and who is your boss. I'm not being mean or sarcastic. This is fact. Then of course you do his wishes and you are happy not to do what he said not to do. But then of course he will reward you for this. And this is reasonable, nothing wrong, but it's not Buddha's view. Ask Buddha, why shouldn't I kill Buddha? He does not say, because I say so. Mummy will say that. Mummy's the same as God, because I say so. Meaning you'll get punished if you do it wrong. But not here. Buddha is not a creator. He is not a punisher. He is not a rewarder. It is not his job. Like the doctor is not a punisher, is not a rewarder. It's a huge point that we have to think about. So why does Buddha exhort us not to kill? The definition of killing is the same as Jesus, but the reason why, 2 things. First, in general, for Jesus, killing is wrong, as God said. In fact, the priest said that is the main component. There is a natural law component, he said, that people don't like getting killed. But the real energy behind why it's wrong is because God said not to do it. And I'm not criticizing. The Buddha says it's natural law. Check it out. Do research, he says, in this room. In 1 minute, we can deduce that no one likes being killed. Look at the dog. Look at the ant. You can tell by their behavior. They don't like getting killed. Really reasonable. It's natural law. It is not Buddha's law. You could say there's Buddha's laws in a conventional sense. Like if you live in a monastery, there are rules you abide by. You could argue they're Buddha's laws. You know? The monks don't sleep with the nuns, and I mean, you understand. Whatever, I'm joking. You understand my point. But the fundamentals of what are called sins in religious view, they're just natural law for the Buddha. Harming others is a natural law. Nobody likes getting harmed. That's the first thing. But the second point is really crucial, and this takes us a long time to get in touch with. The reason behind Buddha's exhorting us in the very first stage, entry-level junior school grade 1 practice, to not kill, steal, etc., etc., is because, you know what, Robina, honey? You doing that action sows a seed in your mind that will ripen in the future as you suffering as a result of that experience. So it's for your own sake. Just like the doctor. Just like the doctor. You'll get diabetes. So the basis of this level of practice is self-respect, not guilt, not neurotic, not hiding, not wanting to not get punished. That's just dualistic. But we've got to cultivate this view. When we have it sincerely, it means then the view of karma is so intelligent. It's like mental health. Who would want to have future suffering? But this is where it's hard for us. We can hear about diabetes 20 years later being the result of sugar. We can hear about cancer in the lungs as a result of smoking. But to think that a future rebirth in a suffering lower realm or being killed by someone else in another life is the result of what you did in a past life, that's a bit abstract for us. Of course, we have taken it as a hypothesis, but that's the point we're talking here. Long term.